3 of graphic tools for your Photoshop assignment. So I've made some changes here since you last saw this picture. I've changed up my fonts a little bit. Before I had this one here is Trajan Pro, and then I just had Times New Roman as my other ones. But I decided that those ones were too similar. So it's never good when your fonts are too similar but not quite the same. So I decided to shake it up by adding this one, which is called Can't Write Quickly in Winter, which I downloaded off the internet. And I thought it was good and slightly creepy looking and kind of songwriter style. And then I added another just plain serif font, and this is just called Century. So this one, they both have serifs, but these ones are very different. They're more the knob and straight serifs, whereas Trajan Pro is more Roman looking and more smoothed out and thin. So those two, I think, are different enough that you can tell that they're different fonts and they're not just like awkwardly similar. So one other thing that I wanted to show you is how to add different graphics to your videos. So like always, and way over on the left or on the right here is the stock images folder. So here I have Photoshop patterns. If you're interested in that, you get into that in intermediate Photoshop as well. Some JPEGs that can be good for backgrounds, and vectors. So I'm going to go in vectors. And in here are a whole bunch of different graphics that you can use. They're off of a graphic downloading share site that costs money. But when you use these, you don't need to worry about copyright crediting. So there's a whole bunch of different things in here. Lots of animals right now. I'm working on getting more of these, but for now, this is what I've got, and it's not very organized. But there are a few different things, like there's a few different alphabets that you might be interested in. So if you click on it, they download, and then you can just open it up. And it'll automatically open up with Adobe Illustrator, because that is the program that we use for vectors. Sometimes it'll prompt you, just always click yes or OK. Okay, so here are a couple different alphabets that you guys can use if you want to. This one is called Holly Alphabet. It's kind of a girly style. So if you want to use it to make words, or if you're just interested in using maybe the first letter for some of your focal point words, some of your main words, you can do that. You can also go into vectors and just grab specific shapes. So say that I just wanted this hummingbird. Always try your black arrow first. Okay, but when I use my black arrow, see how it's highlighting everything? Well, I don't want everything, so just click outside to get rid of that. And then you can use your white arrow. So your white arrow is your direct selection tool. So your direct selection tool, just make sure that you click inside the shape, not on one of the paths or the little dots there. And those should all come up blue. So if I zoom in, you can kind of see how all these dots are blue. That means that they're all selected and it'll copy properly. Edit. Copy, edit, paste. And it's going to prompt you as how you want to paste it. So by pasting as a smart object, that means that it's going to retain its vector qualities. So you're not going to be able to edit it the same way that you can normal raster graphics. You won't be able to like use the bucket tool on it. You won't be able to smudge it or blend it or anything like that. But to begin with, always paste it as a smart object because you can resize it as much as you want and it's not going to lose its quality. So I'm going to press OK. And there's my little hummingbird. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit just so I can grab it. So if I wanted to make this bigger, I could drag it the corner. And just remember that you want to hold down Shift to constrain proportions when you're dragging. Okay? So say I wanted to have my hummingbird here. If I wanted to flip it, if I wanted it to face the other way, what I could do is grab one of these edges and hold down your Alt key. So Alt, drag, and there it is. There's our hummingbird. Once you've got it, the size you want it, and position doesn't matter, but just as long as it's the size you want it, you can press your check mark, go back into your Move tool, move it around, put it wherever you want. Now, if you wanted to change the color of it, see, like if I tried to bucket dump on top of my bird right now, it wouldn't let me do it. So what you have to do is right click and rasterize that layer. So that's going to turn it into pixels rather than a vector. So if you do try to resize it now, it's going to get a little blurry around the edges. So that's why we did the resizing first. But then you can edit it just like everything else. If you want to use your bucket on it, your eraser tool, your blur tool, your smudge tool, any of those will work now. But hummingbird doesn't really fit for mine, so I'm just going to drag that down to my garbage can. So one that I was interested in, I found in one that's called Ornate Labels here. And I really like this piece here. Now this was difficult because if I click on this with my white arrow, it's still selecting all this blue stuff. But I didn't want all that blue stuff. I just wanted this part. So what I had to do was select all of it, copy it, paste it into Photoshop, and then rasterize it and erase the parts that I didn't want. But as it ended up, it looked like that. So, turned out pretty nice. I decided that down under never as well, I needed a little something. So I decided I want to use the same graphic over again. So as long as this one's selected, what I can do is drag down, copy it, and then I have the exact same thing again, but it didn't really fit facing that way. It wasn't working out. So I wanted to flip that one. So again, hold down Control T to bring up your free transform. I'm going to move that right over to the edge just so I know how much I want to drag it. Hold down Alt, drag. It works for the up and down as well if you wanted to flip it upside down. Line it up on an edge so you know how far to drag it. Hold down Alt, drag, and then there you go. And once you're satisfied again, press your check mark. So that's not bad. I already actually did this and got it exactly where I wanted, so I'm going to delete that, turn on that layer. Looks lovely. One other thing that I wanted to show you guys was how to add layer effects. So my word chain down here, it's just not really standing out. It's not doing it for me. And I might still need to change the color, but first I'm going to try adding some layer effects. So, layer effects. Make sure you're on the layer that you want and click in the blank space beside it. Double click. Okay, if your text takes up all this area, click above it. Any blank space in here, double click on that. That brings up your layer style dialog box. So in here there's some different options. So like you could add a drop shadow, which is kind of hard to see. You can just kind of see it right there. If you click on the word itself, you can go in and mess with the settings. So if I wanted to spread out my shadow, make it a little bigger, make it a little softer, see how that's affecting the shadow there. So that looks kind of cool. I don't mind that. Let's see what else I've got. There's one called Outer Glow. Again, if you click on it, you can go in and change how big your glow is, the size of it, what color it is, how opaque it is. Lots of different options there. There's a stroke option. So this is good for bolding up words that you can't make any more bold normally. This color here, I could double click on that, pick this orange, and increase the size of my stroke to make my word look more bold. That's not really working out. Don't really like that. So there's also one bevel and emboss. Lots of people like bevel and emboss. So this is where it kind of makes it look 3D, like it's sticking out of your page. Don't get too carried away with bevel and emboss. It's hard to make it look weird. There's different kinds of bevels that you can test out. But all of these things are just ways that I can help make my words stand out more. If the colors aren't working for me, but I don't want to make it like a complementary color or something because it doesn't fit. These are different things that you can use to make your words stand out. So I think I'm going to use the drop shadow. I kind of like that. And again, drop shadow is an easy one to overuse too, but sometimes it can just be entertaining. So I'm going to use it. So there we go. There's my lyric poster. I think that's looking pretty good. So remember to save and get ready for printing.